Hurricane Fiona is causing devastating flooding over Puerto Rico and is headed for landfall in the Dominican Republic. Good evening, I'm Mike Naso with this 11:30 p.m. update on our powerful hurricane. It's a strong Category 1, the pressure's dropping, but the most powerful part of it is the heavy rainfall, and it is forecast to become a major hurricane down the line. Let's get right to it. Here's the latest. As of 11 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, Hurricane Fiona was at 18.0 north, 68.1 west, winds of 85 miles per hour, and again, it is forecast to strengthen. The pressure's been dropping little by little, 984, 983, 982, so it is on a strengthening trend. It's moving west-northwest at 10 miles per hour. However, it does seem to have jogged westward, even west-southwest, as it kind of gets its bearings over the Mona Passage there between the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and that might have implications for a landfall in the Dominican Republic. We do have hurricane warnings out for Puerto Rico, the east coast of the Dominican Republic, and we now have a hurricane warning for the Turks and Caicos Islands. There's the track, and by Tuesday morning, it could be very, very close to or over the Turks and Caicos Islands as a Category 2 hurricane, and then becoming a major hurricane by Wednesday, and then Thursday making a track very close to Bermuda, and then finally up on into the areas of Atlantic Canada there, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia. You guys are going to have to watch it very, very carefully. Nevertheless, in the short term, we are talking about landfall in the Dominican Republic. There is the water vapor imagery, and I showed this because I want to show it's not perfectly symmetric, it's not perfectly well organized, but it clearly is bursting, and it has a lot of moisture, especially on the eastern side here, and this is the big problem. This right here is the trouble over Puerto Rico, because this is moisture and a constant fetch of rain, and that is causing rainfall rates 20, 25, 30 inches, record flooding, bridges washed out, devastation with floodwaters over Puerto Rico, and I don't see it ending as long as it has this constant fetch. And with that west-northwest motion at 10, it's going to take Fiona a while to get out of the picture and finally dry out Puerto Rico. So they're in trouble. But now that it's headed for the Dominican Republic, the Dominican is very, very susceptible to heavy rainfall and mudslides. And there's the center right in there, heading more in the area here south of Punta Cana. And it could make landfall. Earlier today, we were thinking, okay, it made landfall around 3 p.m. Eastern time here in Puerto Rico. We figured it was going to kind of take a track like that and just missed the Dominican Republic. However, it did jog to the west and then the west-southwest, and now as it gets its bearings, it's going to continue towards the west-northwest. Again, interaction with these higher elevations in Puerto Rico and the mountains here of Hispaniola could cause the system to kind of dance around it. Here's the mountainous terrain of the Dominican Republic, and there's the border here. Here's Haiti, and here's the Dominican, and the highest mountain ranges are here in the middle of the island, and so if it remains on the eastern edge, it'll weaken. It's going to get disrupted, but not the same way it would if it moved across the mountains. Back in 1979, Hurricane David made landfall very, very close to Santo Domingo, which is down here in this region, and it was a Category 5 with a very well-defined eye, and it just crossed these mountains gradually, and it weakened from a 5 all the way down to a tropical storm by the time it came out. Hispaniola is known as Shredderola in hurricane circles because of its ability to weaken hurricanes. However, because Hurricane Fiona is already just a Category 1 and still getting its act together, and because it's going to be over the less mountainous terrain, we are not expecting significant weakening, but we are expecting a lot of heavy rainfall. Look at this radar. I sped this up to show the motion. It was over Puerto Rico. It moved out, moved west, moved over this island here. This is a Puerto Rican archipelago volcanic Mona Passage type island. I think there was a population of 5 10 years ago. So it's not a heavily populated area, but it moved over that, and then it kind of got its bearings here, and it's moving west-northwest. So we will likely see landfall here along the eastern seaboard of the Dominican Republic, and after that, it should begin a northwest motion, but it's definitely trying to pull further west than we thought. Look at this rainfall over Puerto Rico. This is the big story with this hurricane. The constant fetch of moisture, the hot, moist Caribbean air, the humidity, just creating a lot of heavy rainfall. And you can see they're saying up to 20 inches. We probably had more than that, especially in areas here in southeastern Puerto Rico. They are really, really getting hammered. Ponce had winds 100-mile-an-hour gusts, so the wind damage was bad, but it's really the rainfall and the flooding that's going to be really, really bad. Philippe Papin on Twitter, he's a hurricane guy. He mentioned what I mentioned earlier, Hurricane Hortense 1996. Look at the infrared satellite of both of them. This is Hortense, and this is Fiona. They look like identical twins. Now, no two hurricanes are the same, but Hortense, Fiona. Hortense, Fiona. Almost identical, and Hurricane Hortense ended up turning just east of the Turks and Caicos, became a Category 4. This is forecast. Look at that line. I didn't even have to redraw the line. This is forecast to become near a Category 4 and move just east of the Turks and Caicos, although, if memory serves, Hortense missed the Dominican Republic. It looks like Fiona is going to move into the Dominican Republic, but, I mean, we're just splitting hairs here. This is very, very similar to Hurricane Hortense, and Hortense was known in Puerto Rico for its devastating flooding and death toll, and that's why that name was retired after 96. You don't hear much about Hurricane Hortense, but it was a big deal for Puerto Rico in the 90s. I think Hurricane George in 98 kind of wiped the memory clean. But Puerto Rico, you tended to get hit by a bad hurricane about twice a decade, because we had Hortense and George in the 90s. We had Hurricane Jean in 2004, although that was a strong tropical storm. We had Hurricane Irene in 2011. That was a tropical storm becoming a hurricane. And, of course, Maria crossed Puerto Rico as a high-end Category 4 5 years ago. So the really bad ones, Hugo 89, George 98, Maria 2017. But then you have other impactful hurricanes that were deadly, like Hortense, and now Hurricane Fiona. There's the eye of Fiona moving on out of the radar range here from San Juan, headed for the Dominican Republic. The European ensembles bring Fiona up and out as it interacts with that trough, but look at down here in the Atlantic. Watch this. We get a little wave moving into the Caribbean, and then it does something here in the Western Caribbean by the end of September. And I mentioned this a day or two ago. That is the area that we start to look at for late-season hurricane development, and if we have anything brewing, it could do something. Here's the satellite, and you can see there came Fiona, moving across, becoming a hurricane. This wave we were watching is still around. It's not much going on right now, but that is the wave that the European model is showing making it into the Caribbean and then potentially being a problem down the road. So after Fiona, we're still going to be watching. This is a La Nina year, and that means we could have a lot of late-season activity. And again, we didn't have much in late August, and certainly we didn't get far down the name list, but we have Fiona right now. There's the trough. You can see a trough here over the central U.S. This is going to sweep off the eastern seaboard and help pick Fiona up and out and save America from a landfall on the mainland United States. The key messages for Hurricane Fiona. Number one, hurricane conditions are expected to begin really in the next couple of hours overnight in the Dominican Republic, and that's going to spread over portions of the Dominican with tropical storm conditions throughout Monday. Obviously, the main threat, heavy rainfall over Puerto Rico tonight, spreading over the Dominican. Don't think just because Puerto Rico is going to dry out, now we've got the Dominican for the rainfall, and that's going to cause catastrophic flash urban flooding. We've seen that already in Puerto Rico, and mudslides and landslides, especially where there's higher terrain and you have the orographic lift there. Finally, Fiona will strengthen as it moves away, and we have hurricane conditions expected in the Turks and Caicos on Tuesday, and we now have that hurricane warning in effect. There's another look at it. Hurricane Fiona, the third hurricane of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season, certainly the most destructive. Hopefully, it's the last of it, but we still have hurricane season left to go. There it is, an eye developing as a Category 1 storm headed for landfall in the Dominican Republic. I'm Mike Naso with the latest, and we will continue to watch this system. I'll be back with further updates in the coming days as Hurricane Fiona leaves Puerto Rico, hits the Dominican, heads for the Turks, Caicos, and the Bahamas.